The Retired Cat. A poet's cat, sedate and grave, as poet well could wish to have, was much addicted to inquire for nooks to which she might retire, and where, secure as mouse in chink, she might repose or sit and think. I know not where she caught the trick. Nature perhaps herself had cast her in such a mold philosophic, or else she learned it of her master. Sometimes, ascending debonair an apple tree or lofty pear, lodged with convenience in the fork, she watched the gardener at his work. Sometimes her ease and solace sought in an old empty watering pot, there, wanting nothing save a fan, to seem some nymph in her sedan, apparelled in exactest sort, and ready to be borne to court. But love of change, it seems, has place, not only in our wiser race. Cats also feel, as well as we, that passion's force, and so did she. Her climbing she began to find, exposed her too much to the wind, and the old utensil of tin was cold and comfortless within. She therefore wished, instead of those, some place of more serene repose, where neither cold might come nor air, too rudely wanton in her hair, and sought it in the likeliest mode within her master's snug abode. A drawer it chanced at bottom lined with linen of the softest kind, with such as merchants introduce from India for the ladies' use. A drawer impending o'er the rest, half open, in the topmost chest, of depth enough and none to spare, invited her to slumber there. Puss, with delight beyond expression, surveyed the scene, and took possession, recumbent at her ease ere long, and lulled by her own humdrum song. She left the cares of life behind, and slept as she would sleep her last, when in came, housewifely inclined, the chambermaid, and shut it fast. By no malignity impelled, but all unconscious whom it held. Awakened by the shock, cried Puss, was ever cat attended thus? The open drawer was left, I see, merely to prove a nest for me. For soon as I was well composed, then came the maid, and it was closed. How smooth these kerchiefs, and how sweet! Oh, what a delicate retreat! I will resign myself to rest, till Sol declining in the west shall call to supper, when, no doubt, Susan will come and let me out. The evening came, the sun descended, and Puss remained still unattended. The night rolled tardily away, with her indeed 'twas never day. The sprightly morn her course renewed, the evening grey again ensued, and Puss came into mind no more than if entombed the day before. With hunger pinched and pinched for room, she now presaged approaching doom, nor slept a single wink, nor purred, conscious of jeopardy incurred. That night, by chance, the poet watching, heard an inexplicable scratching. His noble heart went pit-a-pat, and to himself he said, "What's that?" He drew the curtain at his side, and forth he peeped, but nothing spied. Yet by his ear directed guessed something imprisoned in the chest, and doubtful what, with prudent care, resolved it should continue there. At length a voice, which well he knew, a long and melancholy mew, saluting his poetic ears, consoled him and dispelled his fears. He left his bed, he trod the floor, he 'gan in haste the drawers explore, the lowest first, and without stop, the next in order to the top. For 'tis a truth well known to most, that whatsoever thing is lost, we seek it ere it come to light, in every cranny but the right. Forth skipped the cat, not now replete, as erst with airy self-conceit, nor in her own fond comprehension a theme for all the world's attention, but modest, sober, cured of all her notions hyperbolical, and wishing for a place of rest, anything rather than a chest. Then stepped the poet into bed, with this reflection in his head. Moral: be ward of too sublime a sense of your own worth and consequence. The man who dreams himself so great, and his importance of such weight, that all around in all that's done must move and act for him alone, will learn in school of tribulation the folly of his expectation. By William Cowper. My cat Jeoffry. For I will consider my cat Jeoffry, for he is the servant of the living God, duly and daily serving him. For at the first glance of the glory of God in the east, he worships in his way. For this is done by wreathing his body 7 times round with elegant quickness. For then he leaps up to catch the musk, which is the blessing of God upon his prayer. For he rolls upon prank to work it in. For having done duty and received blessing, he begins to consider himself. For this he performs in 10 degrees. For first he looks upon his forepaws to see if they are clean. For secondly he kicks up behind to clear away there. For thirdly he works it upon stretch with the forepaws extended. For fourthly he sharpens his paws by wood. For fifthly he washes himself. For sixthly he rolls upon wash. For seventhly he flees himself, that he may not be interrupted upon the beat. For eighthly he rubs himself against a post. For ninthly he looks up for his instructions. For tenthly he goes in quest of food. For having considered God and himself, he will consider his neighbor. For if he meets another cat, he will kiss her in kindness. For when he takes his prey, he plays with it to give it a chance. For 1 mouse in 7 escapes by his dallying. For when his day's work is done, his business more properly begins. For he keeps the Lord's watch in the night against the adversary. For he counteracts the powers of darkness by his electrical skin and glaring eyes. For he counteracts the devil, who is death, by brisking about the life. For in his morning orisons he loves the sun, and the sun loves him. For he is of the tribe of tiger. For the cherub cat is a term of the angel tiger. For he has the subtlety and hissing of a serpent, which in goodness he suppresses. For he will not do destruction if he is well fed, neither will he spit without provocation. For he purrs in thankfulness when God tells him he's a good cat. For he is an instrument for the children to learn benevolence upon. For every house is incomplete without him, and a blessing is lacking in the spirit. Christopher Smart, Rejoice in the Lamb. Playing with a cat. A famous 19th century singing teacher's first advice to a pupil was always, "No one can learn to sing until he has learned not to be afraid of looking a fool." Remembering a Siamese whose favorite game was to be stalked on hands and knees in dead silence round the drawing-room furniture and through the house until she collapsed from the pure ecstasy of her excitement, I feel the same might be said of playing with cats. If you are self-conscious, it is best done when you are alone with the cat, for provided you play the right game fairly, the cat will not think you look a fool. It is only if you allow your concentration to falter or break the rules that the cat will break off with a "if you are amused, I'm not" twitch of the tail. Playing with a cat, or allowing a cat to play with you, can be fascinating and relaxing, as many great men burdened with affairs of state have found, from Louis VIII's Cardinal Minister, Richelieu, to Sir Winston Churchill. But it is a pastime that requires study and time to yield the fullest enjoyment. Those who think that playing with a cat means nothing but dangling a piece of string deny themselves pleasure. The game is likely to end with the human player muttering, "Dull cat," because he has failed to match the cat's imagination with his own. It takes two to play Let's Pretend, even though neither is genuinely deceived, and the ability to play successfully with a cat, even more than with a young child, is an exercise in imagination, for it demands entertaining the world of a very different creature. Games with cats are unlike any others, except perhaps with individual children. Although all cat games have their rules and ritual, these vary with each individual player. There is no game that appeals to all cats at all times, and probably no cat which, given opportunity, will not invent its own unique game. These highly individual games develop rules as formal and refined as those of cricket and football. Any breach of the rules on the part of the human player is likely to bring the game to an abrupt end. The cat, of course, never breaks a rule. If it does not follow precedent, that simply means it has created a new rule, and it is up to you to learn it quickly if you want the game to continue. But the cat is such an individualist that all generalizations are likely to prove false with particular cats. I have in mind a cat who developed a complicated game, the basis of which was somersaulting from a concealed position onto a feather. When she felt lazy or perhaps thought that the game was not going sufficiently in her favor, she would cheat by taking up an advanced position. But a stern warning that you would not play if she did not go to her place always resulted in a retreat, even if it were accompanied by tail-lashing and verbal protests that would have done credit to a footballer addressing the referee after being whistled for a foul. Inventing games requires observation of the nature of cats in general and one cat in particular. All cats, for instance, are more interested by the movement of an object they cannot see than one which is visible. A mysterious rustle in a bush is worth 2 wiggles of a string on the path beside it. Pouncing from a hiding place is instinctive in all cats. So is jumping. There are endless games that can be based on these facts. But it is axiomatic that you cannot order a cat to play. You can only coax or beguile. Performing is rather different from playing, but if the tricks the cat is persuaded to perform are in keeping with its physical and mental characteristics, it may enjoy them, whether it is jumping over a door or walking along a tightrope. Many cats take easily to retrieving, provided the size and texture of the object is suitable. A rabbit's foot is ideal. I had one cat who would retrieve her rabbit's foot from down 2 flights of stairs again and again until exhaustion set in. Mine, not hers. For once she asked for a game, she was tireless. When we moved to another house, she gave up the game. It was something that belonged to a certain place and time, and had no meaning anywhere else. This ritualism seems characteristic of cats. A game favored at twilight when offered at midday seems as ridiculous as football in June. A rabbit's foot thrown across the floor is treated with contempt if the rules of the game demand it be thrown downstairs. The most fascinating of cat games are the improbable ones. Sir William Nicholson had a cat of his own called Black, whose games included being spun in a very large wooden bowl. He would get into the bowl, acquired for a still life painting, and demand that it should be spun at an ever-increasing speed. He nestled into this miniature wall of death until the human player was tired, when, staggering slightly and purring like a marathon runner who has just broken the record, he would make for his favorite seat. Such a sensation would certainly terrify most cats, and it is this discovery of the one unique game that each individual cat desires which represents a challenge to the cat lover with a taste for playing. Going for a walk is perhaps hardly a game, but most cats enjoy it if encouraged. The encouragement calls for no more than suiting the walk to the cat and understanding that cats do not go for a walk to get somewhere, but to explore, and that their senses are so acute that even if the walk is made twice daily on the same route, each time is a fresh exploration. In contrast to a dog, a cat progresses by starts and stops, with continual pauses and diversions, too feline for a human being to understand, although he may get pleasure from trying to do so. Apart from pleasure, playing with a cat is good for it. Many cats, especially in towns, have insufficient opportunities for exercise. The pouncing, leaping, rolling, and running demanded by games prevent middle age spread, with benefit to the spirit as well as to appearance. A much played with cat remains a playful cat far into old age. Sidney, Denham, Our Cats. Facial expressions. The cat's large variety of facial expressions is not equaled by those of any other animal save man. They convey pleasure, amusement, pain, perplexity, mischief, fright, interrogation, expectancy, triumph, grief, and other emotions. Cats frown when annoyed, and sometimes assume a sweet expression when talked to. A cat will put on a very sweet face when a loved child picks it up, and the expression of the female generally is somewhat softer than that of the male. The face is a certain guide to the manner of life of the cat, and instantly reveals the character of its home, particularly in the expression of the eyes, the glance of the well-treated cat being mindful and trustful, while that of the ill-used cat is hard and suspicious. Ida M. Mellen, The Science and Mystery of the Cat.